Hi, Jace here. I'm getting ready to do some work here in session. Hey, did you ever get stuck in a creative process on something? I mean, I don't care whether it's putting shelves in the closet, building a new closet organization system, or, finding a way to organize your parts for this thing that you like to do in some better way. Or if you're writing a story or script or a film or whatever it is that you're creating, once we get past that point of inspiration where it's just like, man, I got a great idea, then comes the rest of it, which is called finishing what we started. And it's not exactly the same thing as the is well, it's not as easy as it was when it started. Anyway, we make things harder than they actually are. I think it's the nature of the human condition to take something that is relatively fun and easy to do and turn it into a complex mess. Today, I'm going to show us how to uncomplex some of these things by using a bunch of things that I've learned to do. Let's get into session. So I'm working on a track called For Pete's Sake, and that is just a working title right now of the track. I give these things working titles to get me started with. And this is the one of many sessions I've done on this track. We call it a done session because I've made the decision that I'm going to release it, not because the track is released and finished. I know that can be a slightly little confusing thing, but once you get used to it, it's a lot easier. And by the way, you're going to hear me talking about done sessions, splurges, discoveries, little things, that tips and tricks that I do to make my process stay fun and help me finish tracks. And this is stuff that's taught by that gentleman up there, Mike Monday over at Make Music Your Life. He's the one that has come up with this methodology, and I'm sharing that information because although I am sharing some things that he is teaching in a class, keep something in mind. This is only the tip of the iceberg of the stuff I'm showing you. I've had the pleasure of being involved with those course materials for about 6 months, and I'm learning new stuff. Actually, this morning. So, no, Mike didn't teach me to write music. He didn't teach me how to orchestrate. He didn't teach me how to compress, mix, master, everything that I do in the tracks. Mike is about getting things done, and he's made a lifetime career out of that. So, I'm, happy to tell you about that. Okay, so let's move on to this track. Okay, so at the outset of every session, almost every session, I'm going to start by doing something called direct listening. And direct listening is the process in which the manner in which I actually listen to a track. It's a mindful approach of not letting yourself get carried away with a bunch of thoughts and a bunch of the emotional roller coaster of life. You listen to music one day, it sounds great. You listen to music the next day, it doesn't sound so good. That is why I choose to do direct listening. And again, that's another part of this guy up here, some things that he shows us how to do. Now, here's what's what. When I'm doing my show here, and you've heard me do this before, if you're someone who's been following along, instead of making you listen to me do this direct listening over, which I might have to do this more than once. When you see this up on the screen, this gives you the opportunity to go ahead and fast forward the video to the part where I'm taking some actions, so that you're not listening through 2 minutes of something that you may have heard again and again and again. That's actually my job. But even at that, I try not to do it too often. So, and okay, well, let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and direct listen now. Okay. So basically, I just spent a moment or two listening to that, and when I noticed myself starting to wander off in my thoughts, I kind of just gently nudged myself back on to listening to what's happening in the track. That way, I have a better chance of actually hearing the music for the music's sake instead of listening to the music for my sake, which is kind of a poetic way of saying not getting carried away with letting my emotions convince me that this music either sucks or this music is great. Sucks are great and great are adjectives, that really don't yield a lot of good results in the creative process. So, music doesn't need any help from us sometimes. I know that's a little out there of a statement to make. Okay, so the area today that I'm going to be looking at is right in here and beyond also. And I'm thinking I want to add something here. Minimal something. And I'm thinking of this piano part right here. Oops. Let's go ahead and do that. Sorry, guys. Turn that up so you can hear it. So just to point out, when I listen to that, there's this part of the brain that we call the editor. And, there's two parts basically running the show here. There's the creator and there's the editor. And I'm going to flash that because this is more of his thoughts on these things. The editor is the thing that says, man, this isn't right. That's not right. Rewrite this, change this, and of course, the overarching idea is the editor is going to make the creativity sound better. It's what the editor wants to do. So when I listen to that track, I can hear some mistiming in there and some things. What I do is I basically stick a pin in that and say, okay, I'm going to maybe come back to that some other time. The outset of my intention here at the start of this today was to add something here and move on to the next section, which I'm going to be talking about the purpose of this track as it pertains to these things too. Okay. We had that part that wouldn't it be nice if I can bring that back over here in this section with something else? And I'm going to do that right now. Now, how am I going to make this decision? Well, I'm listening to the frequency range of the instruments that are coming down through there. I could put on a really fancy plug-in right now that shows you all the ranges and everything. Maybe I'll do that later. Isotope makes a cool one. Right now, let's use this magical little thing we call our ears. And I've done a good job so far in this track of not stepping all over myself, ramming too many, let's say that the frequency of your human hearing goes all the way from the lowest thing you can possibly hear all the way to the highest things that are short of a dog whistle. I've got plenty of space in those frequencies in there because there's not a whole lot going on, but let's not get too carried away there. We are talking about a piano, which in its very, very nature carries a lot of harmonic overtones and things that can add frequency where you least expect it. So having said that, I think I'm going to use a mallet here, and I'm going to stay in the relative same area. I'm actually going to move down into the draft sessions here. You'll see I'm going to be offering this template that I'm using for sale soon. This is a template that I use for all of my productions that allow me to take a track the whole way from a splurged idea, one little track, all the way up to sometimes what could be potentially 300, 400 tracks. And this drafting submix here. This track stack is part of that. I'm going to engage here now. All right, I'm going to pull up. Let's pull up a contact player. And let's go ahead and scroll down through here. I know I have some mallet something or other in here. Mallet flux. And the idea here is I don't try to be perfect. I'm not trying to nail this the first time. I'm just getting something in there, setting the intention of finding something nice, but I'm giving myself room here. Okay, let me listen to this. Ooh. Okay. I think it's the range I'm going to do that in, is that section right there. I'm just going to go ahead and set that into play there for a moment. And now I'm going to stop for a minute here. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out my project organizer here. This is the original working title of this. So I'm going to create a done session checklist now. I should have actually done that first, but I was so hell-bent on getting that first track in there that I didn't dive right in. And that's kind of like a no-no. So listen, you're going to see me digging in here and doing this kind of stuff today. At some point along the line, somebody who's an experienced music maker is going to say, wow, that's a whole heck of a lot of scribbling around and a whole lot of thinking here for something that should just be like, just do this, just do that. But what you might be missing here is that I've already been through that. This Elgato Stream Deck is glitchy today, so I apologize if the screens are glitching. It's got a little bit of a software bug issue going on, waiting on an update. Getting back to the point, yes, there is a time and a place in the production mindset for this thing, and it really is a mindset. It's a way that I go about thinking about a project. In a little bit of thought and taking the time to set intention, I find at the phase of production a little further down the line, which what we're referring to here is a done draft session, is a way better than throwing anything at a wall to see what will stick. Okay, so For example, I'm going to do some session checklisting here. But what would the our alternative be for me here? Okay, here we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and switch my screens over here. Hopefully it won't glitch. Okay, so this is done session checklist 10. And I'm going to go ahead and add the item that I just did. Add Spielish sound using the original counter melody. Okay. Now I'm also going to, I should have done that first. I'm also going to think here for a second. I want to try that a couple of different ways. I'd like to try to see if maybe there's something I can find with alchemy. This is a synthesizer. It is a logic-based synthesizer. It's a wonderful synth. It can do a lot of cool stuff. Do the same. Feel free to mutate the signal. I know I'm going to have typos all over the place, guys. If I stop and correct every typo I make, we're going to be here for about 1,000 years. 400 years later. All right. Jump back in here. Mallet flux, we're going to call that. Okay. Let's take a look at this now. Alchemy. Let me see what I can find here. You see, what I'm doing right now, hunting for instruments, every one of these things winds up being a unit of something called time, you know? And for the sake of getting things done, sometimes you actually wind up almost always saving time. Oh, let's try this musical box. Okay, that's got a lot of inborn noises. You know what? I'll do it anyway. I'll do it anyway, and let's see what happens. You know, this is one of those things where I'm just getting... Now here's me being free with an idea. I went out looking for a music box kind of a sound and came across this thing, and, you know, there's no promise that that's going to work at all, but this, what you're seeing right now happen, is the dance of discovery and design. You know, this is the thing that this methodology of this practice that I'm putting into place tries to, you know, invigorate. Instead of trying to design every possible thing that's going to happen, there's going to be some things that just are complete accidentals that happen along the way. You never know what those things are going to be and when they're going to happen, but you're not going to find them if you don't set about the actions in place that will lead to them. That was weird. But of course, with alchemy, we have the ability to mutate. It's the word I like to use, is mutate the effect that is happening. I'm going to do that right now. So under the hood with this synthesizer, we have effects going, 3-band equalization, modulation effects, delay. Many of these things, and of course we have, there's a built-in ARP happening here that is getting involved. Over here, I can move this around, and this is going to cause mutation to take place. And I'm going to go ahead and solo out the track there so we can listen to that and see exactly what it does. I have no idea what's going to happen. Nothing. Not even a clue. Let me move that over here where you can see what's going on. I apologize. Let's move me there. All right, give me another shot here. All right. Some chorus. Okay. In my opinion, there's definitely some cool stuff going on there. The clickety-click, clickety-clickety-click is the problem that I'm hearing as it pertains to the rest of everything that's going on here. Let me take a peek here. I'm not passing on that by any means. I am not passing on that by any means. Because if I can get the click out of there, I might have something there that is really cool. But I'm going to do another one. And I'm playing this in every time. Okay, so mutant keys, music box. Okay. I'm playing this in my hand every time. Why am I doing that? So the question is, there's a lot of situations in music where you can do a copy and paste. And I do that a lot. You're going to grab something, it's like a loop or it's a bit of a sequence, and you're going to copy that MIDI data over to another track. There are times to do that, and there are times not to, for me. Part of the essence of my style and what I'm doing is playing. See, I'm actually interacting with these instruments one-to-one on a lot of different cases. And there's times when I'm doing electronic music that copying and pasting is the first go-to thing to do, because 90% of what happens to that track is done in the editing, the MIDI editing, that is. I'm going to literally dive in there, take that thing, and manipulate every nuance of it on a subatomic scale. Or I have something like this that is reacting to my emotion and my feeling as I play it. There's a lot of imperfection there. That's something that I don't want to just necessarily throw away on a track like this when I have the option to do it. Okay, so let's get back to this. And I'm sorry. Okay, this is another one. This is a one that's listed as music box. Let's see what this one sounds like. Oops. Ooh, hang on a minute. I just messed up big time. Sorry, guys. Yeah, that part. Okay. Now, let's take a listen to this and see what happens when I mutate that one. You think about this for a second. I definitely have something viable there. While I'm in the mood. Checklist 10. Okay. There are some things that are going to evolve out of this that I can hear I'm going to want to try, so I'm going to make a note here. And if I still feel it applies, then I'll go ahead and send that forward. Okay. Music box. Use mutation. Double the track. Oh, man. The track. Okay. And then copy and paste. Use baby delay. This is a plugin. It's a delay plugin. Use baby delay. What's the exact name of it? Let's see here. I can't remember the exact name of it, to tell you the truth. Be nice to get it memorized. So I just installed it. So baby audio. Baby audio, comeback kid. Being specific here about these things that I'm doing is the combination of a discovery and design. You know, let me take this thing and use comeback kid to trigger event specific delay. Now I know what that means. So basically, I'm going to take that track and I'm going to copy it down and pull it here, and I'm going to use certain MIDI notes to trigger delay, and I'm going to keep other ones delay free. There's different ways you can do this. One way is that you can write a bunch of automation, turning delay on and off. It comes with a cost, though, sometimes, of getting a lot of weird artifacts going on in there. Whereas, since you have the advantage of being in a MIDI world, you can go ahead, copy, duplicate the track, turn some events on, turn some events off on one or the other track, and not be jumping on top of each other that way inside the track. So I'm going to save that right here. Actually, all right. I'm going to leave that lay, and I'm going to move on to this next section now. And I'm going to do something called an opposite discovery. I'm going to set this up to do this. So An opposite discovery is a way of getting unstuck. Usually it's something you do when you're looking for a certain a certain kind of thing in a track. The thing that makes the track tell you what it wants to do. Every track is trying to find that. You're trying to find that within the track. But when you do the opposite discovery, you have a method of finding it. And this is something that I use quite often. I'm going to answer some basic questions about this track now. Okay. What texture is it? Best way I would describe it. I would describe the texture actually I'm going to start down here. something a little easier. Oh, you might hear my dog barking out there. All right, so what is the color? I'm looking at this as green gold. And it's sparkling. Okay. So there's this thing in music called kinesthesia. Synesthesia. Excuse me. This is the idea that you are hearing. Let's look it up. Synesthesia definition. Neurological condition they're referring to it as. It's basically when you hear music, you see color. There's a lot of people out there bragging that they have it. I don't know. You know, it's one of those things. How can you prove it? I get a sensation of color when I listen to music. A sensation of color. Like, you know, I don't necessarily, you know, when I say I see the color green, it's not necessarily like that. You know, it's a sensation of green, a sensation of gold, a sensation of it sparkling, you know? And it allows me to kind of, actually, I need to put that here. So the answer is here. And then I'm going to go with an opposite here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to think of that color, and I'm going to think of something that is very much opposite of that. For me, I'm thinking purple and dull. Okay. What is the energy? The energy here is optimistic. Actually, that's going to be mood. Energy is vivacious. Okay. And energy is here is, let's say tired. Then what style is it? The answer is, I'm going to say like song-like, because it's got parts that are song-like, you know, piano and accompaniment, piano, songish. What would an opposite of that be? Electrical. More electronica. What is the mood? This is where I'm going to say optimistic. And I'm going to say the answer, of course, the opposite of that is pessimistic. Maybe even afraid. Texture. How about, let's say, rhythmic? Because, and simple. Texture can be simple. It can be. Rather than, I'll use that for now. Rhythmic simplicity. Opposite would be arrhythmic, of course. Let's say broken rhythm. Okay, so going back through here, we picked a color, and we gave the opposite, the energy, the style, the mood, and the texture of it. And then, essentially, I am going to come up with some ideas of some things that I can try that are going to essentially bring that to life. Yeah, you guys don't want to know. You guys aren't ready for that yet. Sorry. There's a lot of thought that goes into these things, and basically what it is, again, let me refresh you on this. How much time as a musician have you ever spent giving up on a track? How many tracks do you have that aren't done, that basically, or maybe you just got, finished it, just reached a point of disappointment of trying, that just said, oh, just screw it. I'm going to just repeat this part, then I'm done with it. I understand, and there's times all of that stuff applies, but what we're looking at here is different ways of thinking, that might allow for a more positive outcome. Actually, I'm just going to take this, move this over here, and I'm going to grab both of these things. And I'm just going to see if I can. This program's being a little wonky today. All right, so when it comes to the opposite is broken rhythm. We're going to have rhythmic simplicity. I'm going to come up with a set of things there that allow me to, wow, man, this thing's going crazy on me today. That allow me to come up with what I'm looking for to try in my next session. These are going to be steps and procedures that I take, and I am going to go ahead and do that in the next session on this project, which will be coming up shortly.